Hopefully everybody has created their account and is ready to learn a little bit more about Earsketch, our Radical Remix competition, and also we'll start to code their song. So again, our hours of code are brought to you by Georgia Tech at Seismic, the Center for Education, Integrating Science, Math, and Computing, our Earsketch team, and CS Education Week. My name is Sabrina, and I am one of the program directors of Earsketch, and excited to bring you this hour of code. In today, we'll talk a little bit about what is Earsketch and why we're bringing you these hour of code. We'll talk about the Radical Act remix, and we'll get coding in Earsketch. So what is Earsketch? If this is your first time looking at the platform, Earsketch is a code to compose platform where students learn computer science by remixing sound steps. So what does that mean? It means you have the opportunity to code remix beats from some top artists all in this platform called Earsketch, which is very similar to what they use in music recording studios. Earsketch was developed at Georgia Tech. It is an online platform, meaning you don't have to download anything. It will run in Chrome, Fox, and Safari. However, you do need to have laptops, Chromebooks, computers. It does not work on iPads or any other mobile devices. Earsketch is a great tool to help you remix samples and learn Python or JavaScript. So being in the middle of CS Ed Week, we're really excited to support your introduction to these two coding languages. Earsketch is also translated into 6 languages: Spanish, French, Hebrew, Arabic, Ojibwe, and Inuktitut, which are 2 indigenous Canadian languages. It is free. You can use Earsketch at school, at home. As I mentioned, it resembles a digital audio workstation. So it might look like GarageBand or Logic Pro or Soundtrap. So if you've ever remixed music, you should feel a familiarity with Earsketch. There's over 5,000 sounds in the library from some top artists, which we'll see in a minute. And you can also upload your own sounds. So just checking out some of these artists that are in our sound library. Today, you'll have the opportunity to remix music from artists such as Sierra, Pharrell, Alicia Keys, Khalid, The Boykins, Milk and Sis, Young Guru, who is Jay-Z's sound engineer, Richard Devine, Common. So many different artists, including yourself. You have the opportunity to actually code their music and create a remix for a national competition. So the competition that we'd like to share with you is a Radical Act, and it's the story of Renee Montgomery. And I'd like to just show you a short video that Renee has produced for us to talk about the competition and what you'll be doing with her music. Oops. Uh-oh. We'll play it from YouTube. Okay, we'll have to have you, we'll hopefully be able to go back and play this video later, but we'll talk a little bit more about the Radical Act competition. So the Radical Act remix competition, we're asking you to code a song on the Earsketch platform with beats from a Radical Act. And the sound composer for a Radical Act and music producer, his name is Aaron Drake. And you will be able to mix his sounds or the sounds from a Radical Act with other sounds in the Earsketch library, such as Pharrell, Alicia Keys, to create your own soundtrack to your story. At the end of the competition, you'll upload your remix and submit it. And we're asking that you think about your own Radical Act. So what is your story? We'll have the opportunity to learn more about Renee Montgomery and her Radical Act, but we'll ask you to start to think about what does it mean to create a soundtrack of your story. The deadline for the competition is January 31st. Winners will be featured on the official soundtrack. There will be other great prizes, including an opportunity to work with a music producer headphones, and also Amazon gift cards. So, just a little bit more about Renee's story. The soundtrack of A Radical Act follows Renee Montgomery, who is a WNBA player. She also went to UConn, all-star basketball player. Her inspiring journey as a WNBA player who takes a radical step to opt out of the league, become a social justice activist, and eventually co-owner and executive of the Atlanta Dream. One of the things in the WNBA is you can't be a player and an owner. And she made the decision that she wanted to change policy and work within the WNBA to make positive changes for the future generation, and opted out of some of her best playing years. This movie, A Radical Act documentary, is on Roku. So you can have the opportunity to watch more and learn more about her story. It is free with commercials to watch on Roku. But we'll be teaching a little bit more about her story if your teacher accesses some of the Radical Act Remix competition lessons. So Renee's Radical Act was that she stepped aside of an extremely successful basketball career to become an owner, to make changes in the institution, to work to make the WNBA stronger for future generations. So I want you just to think for about 2 to 3 minutes and do a think, pair, share. What is a radical act in your own story? What is something that you might have done that might not have been popular, but changed things maybe for the better? It could be as simple as picking up litter on your walk home from school, or standing up to a friend who's been bullied, or maybe making a decision that you weren't going to try out for a team because you wanted to, take care of a sibling or do more in your academics in your school. So I want you to just take a few minutes. We'll come back together at exactly 1:30. And think about your own radical act. And teachers, if you want to post in the chat, if some of your students have shared, feel free. I hope you had an opportunity just to think about radical acts that you've taken in your own life. Despite what you might think, everybody has taken a radical act, whether it's big or small. Every act that you do probably has the opportunity to make someone's life a little better or make a change in the world. So, how are you going to take this inspiration from Renee and possibly your radical act and code a song that expresses the emotion and feelings of these acts? So in this competition, there are specific requirements. There's requirements for music and for code. For the music requirements, you will code a song between 30 seconds and 2 minutes long. The song must have at least 5 unique music tracks, which are just sounds that you can put in. The song must include some sounds or stems from one or more tracks from a radical act, Aaron Drake, and we'll show you those in the Earsketch library. The song must be a remix, include other artists on Earsketch. You should change the tempo, pitch, order of beats, how it's organized. You can add effects, loop beats, or create subbeats. For code, your final code must run without errors and play in the digital audio workstation. The code must include fit media to insert sound clips. Your code must include comments to describe your code and document the message in the song. We should also recommend that your code includes a level of complexity, such as loops, conditionals, make beat, or custom functions. As we go through today's code and sample code, we'll give you the opportunity to try out some of these functions and learn what it means to code a song in Earsketch. So it's time to start coding. There's a link here and we'll paste it in the chat, but you'll have a minute or two to enter this into your web browser, https://bit.ly/rrcsed24. Okay, I'll give everybody about 2 minutes to enter that in their web browser. This will automatically take you to the Earsketch platform, and then you won't be able to do anything yet because you're going to need to import to edit. So we'll just wait a few minutes and make sure everybody is on the same page and everybody had the opportunity to type this in to your web browser. And I'll also put it in the chat. So let me know if you still need to enter in the code, the bit.ly link, but it's bit.ly/rrcsed24. It's also in the chat. So if you need to take a quick look at the chat to know where to go. Your screen should now look like mine, except what I'm going to do is I am logged in. So I'm actually going to log out so you can see what it looks like if you are not logged in to Earsketch. Okay, so you should see in this upper right corner, it should say import to edit. What I'd like everybody to do, whether you're logged into Earsketch or not, is just simply click import to edit, and it will automatically place it into your scripts library. At this point, if you have an Earsketch username and password, please log in. I think I gave you a few minutes at the beginning to also log in. And if not, if you have not created your Earsketch account, please do that now, where it says register an account, choose a username, pick your code DJ name, and a password. Again, your password should be super simple, like 123456, so something that you can remember. Once you've created your account or logged in, now your screen will probably match mine. If upon logging in, your screen goes blank or does not automatically repopulate the radical remix, You could also go to your content manager on your right-hand side and click scripts and find Radical Remix there. It might take a minute for your screen to repopulate, so please just give it a minute. But if it does not look like mine or put Radical Remix in the code editor and you no longer see import to edit, you can go over to the content manager on the left side of your screen, click scripts, and then find Radical Remix and click on it to open. Okay, so in the center of your screen where you have all this typing, this is your code editor. This is where we'll be working today. So as I mentioned, EarSketch is a code to compose program. That means we're going to write code to create music. So where do we write code? We have to have a place, and that is the center of our platform. Above our platform is blank right now, but we will populate that later. This is our digital audio workstation. Once it's populated, it will probably remind you of like GarageBand, Logic Pro. And as I mentioned, this is what they use for music production. Below my code editor is also empty, but this is the console. We'll see it later. This is where if you have any errors in your script, this is where we'll debug or errors will pop up or we'll say script ran successfully. Okay, we're gonna go to the right of our screen. And I know I'm going through this a little fast because I know our session ends at 2 p.m., but this all will be recorded for your teacher. So if you have any questions, you can go back through the recording. Okay, on the left side of the screen, we have our content manager starting with our sounds. These are the 5,000 stems. I told you there's multiple artists. So we have Sierra, Alicia Keys, Khalid, Milk and Sis, Pharrell, lots of different artists, 5,000 different sounds that they have donated to us for you to use to remix in EarSketch. As we mentioned, we are going to use artist Aaron Drake. He is the composer for the soundtrack of A Radical Act, the Renee Montgomery story. So in all of your competition, in all of your submissions, you must have one or more of sounds from Aaron Drake. And as you can see, they all have Radical at the start. So they all are part of the Radical remix. If you want to listen to a sound, you simply click the green triangle and click play. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so you can see. Click the green triangle. The sounds. In addition to filtering by artist, you can filter by genre, country, dubstep, house, Latin, hip hop. Almost every genre is in the EarSketch library. Also, you know, if you're creating a band and composing music, you want to think about instruments. So your bass, your drums, your keyboard, your piano, your vocals. And then last but not least, if you're musically talented, you might want to think about sorting by key. Okay, in addition to our sounds in our content manager, we also have our scripts. This is where all of your work is saved. So after today's session, if you access EarSketch at home or in class tomorrow, you can find your Radical Remix template located in your script folder. Next to that is the API, the application programming interface. This is kind of like your glossary or dictionary of EarSketch functions. So if you ever want to figure out, you know, how you do something in EarSketch, you can open it up. It will tell you what the function does, which a function is basically a command in code. And you can use any one of these functions in your EarSketch code to complete specific tasks. Okay, so I'm going to close my content manager. Sometimes I do that just to create more space on my screen so it's easier to see my code editor. And then come over here. This is the curriculum. This may be more for your teacher, but also if you're working on EarSketch independently and have some questions, you can simply come over here. There's videos, there's sample code, and there's explanations. I also will close my curriculum just to make sure that I have as much space as I can for coding. Okay, so we've given a little tour of the EarSketch platform. Now let's actually look at our code. Okay, we all have the same code because we're starting with our template. The first thing that you might notice is that there's some different colors of code. Some of our code is kind of this reddish brownish color. Then there's some code that is in black. And you also see some purple. If anything is in this reddish brownish color, you may notice that there's a hashtag or a pound sign in front of that line of code. This means that the computer will not read that line of code. It is a comment. And all coders, whatever language that you're using, will use comments as notes to other programmers to help organize their code and to explain how they might have gone about some of their code. So anytime you want to just put notes, either about the purpose of your code or to help organize it, you just simply have to put a hashtag, and then the computer no longer reads that line of code. We also just do this sometimes if we're practicing and we haven't finished filling out our code, which is why there's so much brown code in our code editor right now that we're going to actually remove some of those hashtags as we write our code. So it's also really important when you're coding to think about purpose, and especially in this competition and as we're working on this radical remix, we want to start to think about the purpose. So up here at the beginning, we kind of have the title. If you want to wait to write in your title till later, you can, because you can decide your title. Maybe you want to write your whole song and then come back and write a title. If you have a brilliant idea right now for your title, go type it in. It doesn't have to have the word radical in it. It could be about any action that you've done. So I just wrote in radical beats, but again, you do not need to take that on. Purpose, to tell the story of your radical act. So what is your radical act? Maybe it's that you helped a friend, or helped, a grandparent, or picked up litter, or as we said, even something bigger. Maybe it was that you didn't know answers on a test, or you helped a friend with that. Or maybe it's something that you didn't try out for the basketball team because you were going to take care of a younger sibling. Or maybe it's that you joined, a protest, or maybe there was something you didn't like at your school and you wrote a letter to the principal. So whatever your radical act is, write it in there. Then below line 6, once it says from Earsketch import, this is where the computer is going to start reading any code that does not have a pound sign or a hashtag in front of it. So for example, right below this, I wrote, this is a sample code. I wrote set tempo 120. This is the first Earsketch function that you will see. Set tempo is what tells the computer how fast or slow to play your music. So tempo is just beats per minute. So it requires a number. And what is that number? The number tells you how many beats per minute. So I put the set tempo 120. That means when the computer is playing the music, it will play 120 beats per minute, which is basically a marching pace. Almost a lot of pop songs are at about 120. We will show you in some of the resources that you can change the tempo throughout the song, but it's good to kind of think of a starting tempo for your song. In Earsketch, set tempo can go between 40 and 220. Most pop songs you hear on the radio, though, are probably between 80 and 140. Hip hop songs are typically of a tempo of 80 to 90. And then EDM, house music, is closer to 140. Most pop songs, as I said, are about 100 to 120. One thing that we might want to do when we think about what tempo we want is to come over here and go to artist and search Aaron Drake and see what tempo his beats are at. So this is original tempo 114, 114. This is 120, 123. Up this went down to 85. So depending maybe on where we're pulling it, but this first song that we're looking at is maybe 114. So I'll push my tempo just down to 110 so that depending which where I'm pulling from, his beats will sound in the same area as the original tempo. One way to remix beats though is if you had a tempo of 85 and then you wanted to change that to 120, that would be a good example of a remix. Okay, we've entered our number and now we're about to go to our sounds. So what we're going to do now is choose some sounds that we're going to insert to remix. And we're going to build those sounds based on instruments: the drum, the bass, the keys, vocals, and strings. So I'm going to delete this hashtag right here next to drum, and it's going to turn black. We are going to store our sounds in variables, and variables encoding is just a way to store a value. Just like in math, you might have x equals 4. X is storing the value of 4. Here, my variable name is drum. It's going to store a particular sound that I'm going to assign it. So I have drum equals, and then I'm going to put my cursor right next to drum. And now I'm going to go to my sound library. And I've clicked on Aaron Drake. I'm going to keep him sorted, but I'm also going to go to instrument and I'm going to go to drums. And then I'm going to click my, and once I find a drum sound that I like, I'm going to click the blue clipboard and paste it next to the drum variable. So I'm going to give everybody a minute or two to find a drum sound they like. I'm recommending that you look under Radical just because that will guarantee that you have some beats from a Radical. If you don't like them, you could also look under other artists. So take a minute, find your drum sound. Okay, once you found your drum sound, we're going to repeat this process with bass, keys, vocals, and strings. So we're going to delete the hashtags next to bass, keys, vocals, and strings. And just like we're building a band, you know, we might find the drummer first, then the bass player. We're doing the same thing here when we're building a song. So now instead of drums, I'm going to click bass. See if I like any of the bass. And if I don't like any of the bass, I might take off Aaron Drake for this one. In this case, remix an Alicia Keys bass. And then maybe I'll come over here and I'll put Aaron back on. I'll come back to instruments and see if he has any keys. And maybe if I don't, because there's not very many vocals, maybe I'll come over here, see if there's other vocals I want.
For the young blood took the children down to.
I got a Jay Lee Wolf vocal, and then maybe I'll come back for strings and see if he has. So you can see what I've done here is that not every beat or not every sound or stem needs to be from A Radical Act from Aaron Drake, but I want to preference him first. It should be many of the sounds, and then you have the opportunity to remix with other artists. So I did 3 of the sounds from A Radical Act, and then I did 1 Alicia Keys and 1 Jay Lee Wolf. Just to kind of remix it, see what's up, because if there's not maybe a sound that you like from A Radical Act, you can pull it from another artist. I'll give everybody another minute to fill out their sounds. Okay, hopefully you finished filling out your sounds for your variables. If you did not, you can also take, put a hashtag back here. So if you didn't pick keys, that way it won't cause an error later. So if you don't have a sound next to your variable name, you could put a hashtag in front of that variable name just to make sure the computer doesn't read something that you did not finish. Okay, it's time to choose a scene from our story. So I'm creating, a fictional story about a radical act where I did something kind for a friend. So maybe the scene 1 is meeting the friend, and then maybe the scene 2 is the actual action. So I'm setting up, maybe I'm doing a little foreshadowing, I'm building into the act that I'm going to do for the friend, or helping the friend. So just establishing the friendship here. So I wrote scene 1, meaning my friend. You might not know your scene yet, so it is okay just to leave that blank. But I want you to start to think about how the music is going to narrate your story. So if it's because, you had to help a friend and maybe you missed something fun at school or something fun after school because you went to help a friend, maybe it's with her homework or take care of her younger brother. Maybe it's something then that shows that you're this good friend, and the music shows the mood of friendship and caring. So the first line here is fit media. This is the first big function that you'll meet in your sketch. Fit media is a command that tells the computer to play a sound. But you need to have arguments or parameters, because I just can't tell the computer play a sound. It won't know what sound or where to play it. Just like I couldn't just ask you to go bake me a cake without telling you what type of cake, where the ingredients are, how long to bake it. So fit media is a function that tells the computer what sound to play, where to play it, and for how long. You might notice in the middle of fit media, there's a capital M. This is called camel case. In Python coding, syntax is extremely important. If you had a lowercase m, the computer would not read that correctly and it would come back as an error. In addition, syntax is important. You need a comma between each one of the arguments or parameters, and you need to end it with a parentheses to show that this is in this fit media command. Okay, so let's look at our first argument, sound. So here we're just going to type drum. And remember, drum is a variable that is holding this sound, this value, radical nothing drum fill. We're going to play it on track number 1. We'll start it on measure number 1 and end it on measure number 5. In music, time is counted in measures. If I have a tempo of close to 120, each measure is about 2 seconds. You might know from music, a measure is four quarter notes. And in this case, in music, you know that stuff is counted off in 4s. I want it to play for 4 measures or for 8 seconds. So my first measure is inclusive. It will play in measure 1. It will play in measure 2, measure 3, measure 4. It will stop at the beginning of measure 5 because measure 5 is exclusive. So this is, I'm telling the drum, you're playing on track 1 and you're playing for 4 full measures. Okay, let's do sound 2. We have the bass. We're going to play that on track number 2. We'll start it because not all sounds in a song start the first second. We'll start it at measure 2, but we will also end at measure 5. Let's do our keys. And again, the benefit of variables is that now I can just pull down these instrument names. I don't have to write the long name, and I can repeat them if I'd like multiple times. This is going to go on track 3. We'll start it at 2. We'll end at 5. Coming in here for vocals. And see, I have to even be careful. I almost deleted a parenthesis there, and that would have caused an error to come up in my console. We'll put this on track 4. I'm going to start this at measure 3, end at 5. And same here for strings. Comma, track 5, and then we can go from 3 to 5 here. So I just now very easily coded 5 tracks, which is a requirement for the competition. So I put a drum on track 1, a bass on track 2, keys on 3, vocals on 4, strings on 5. These are all different sounds. It is a remix of Radical Nothing. And I'm having them play for 4 full measures mixed correctly. So I'm going to click run. And there's my visual of my code on my digital audio workstation. I'll now click play and we'll see if we like it. Okay, it sounded okay. I'm not sure the bass goes that well with the drum fill. So let's say I'm like, I really just didn't like that bass. So I'm going to come over here and I'll go back to sounds. I'll click bass. I'll maybe clear off all my sounds so I can look at the bass and say, is there? Okay, I'll try this bass. And now I don't have to change my fit media or anything else in my code. I just changed a variable and I could run it again and see if I like it again. So I think I also find that my drum fill has a little bit of a break. So I need to figure out how to close that break. This is the great part of working with code and music. Now it's time to iterate, figure out what sounds good. So far, it's almost the time to end our hour of code, but we've gotten you with 5 tracks. You have your 5 variables, which define your sounds. We've introduced fit media, which is a function or command in EarSketch, and it's 4 arguments. And we've coded our first scene. So now what I would like you to do is to code your second scene and hopefully build this song out to 30 seconds at least. You can do that by also extending your measures here, or you can create more verses and repeat them to extend to a song. You can add effects. You can also add some strings, some basic beats, okay? So that's our overall view of EarSketch. We really would love you to work on your code this week and submit to the Radical Remix competition. This PowerPoint is shared. Your teacher can share it with you, which goes step by step over what we've done today. The video will also be available. We also have a few other events with CS Education Week, including an on-demand session. This afternoon, we have an awesome virtual challenge tomorrow, which is about to be posted. We have Ritmos and Beats, a bilingual hour of code. We also have a student-centered computing hour of code. We have another virtual challenge on Thursday with a Kahoot. And finally, our winter jingle, bells, loops, and drums. Please, you can sign up on our teachers.earsketch.org page /CS Ed Week 2024. You can go under teach and find our site there. Teachers, you can join our Facebook group. Students, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter or X. So please make sure that you join some future sessions and also submit to Radical Remix. Thank you so much for joining. We appreciate your time and hope you keep coding.